Alright, so this is our first video here, and we're basically going to walk through how you build your first program in Java, and we'll do some variables and printing as well. So the first thing you're going to do is go ahead and open up Eclipse, and over here under Navigator, what we're going to do is we're going to do a right-click, New, and I usually do Java Project whenever we're starting kind of something big or a new project as well. And we'll talk more about that in class. But basically, we'll go ahead and give it a name. We'll call it, Unit 1. Whatever you really want to call it here, it's not that important. And whoops, click the wrong button there. We'll go ahead and click Finish. And right here, we've got our folder Unit 1. We're gonna click right here, right next to that Unit 1, and then under Source, we're gonna do a right-click, New Class. And the name of the class is important. And we'll go more of this when we talk about classes in depth. I'm just gonna call this kind of first program. That right here. And right here you see it auto-populates like this. You do not want to change the name of this. You always want it to be the same thing as this. So if you need to change that, you need to modify it here, you just need to go ahead and create another class. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about that. Now, this is a big preference thing right here. You can either have it right next to it like that, or you can go like this and have them kind of down like that. I kind of go back and forth. But basically, public class, whatever the program name is, and don't worry too much about the details right now. To just get a basic printing, we're going to go ahead and write public static void main string args, and then once again we'll go ahead and open and close it again with brackets there. And again, don't worry too much about why is that static void, what's with the brackets everywhere. Right now, we're just going through the motions. And so just to get a hello world to print, we'll go ahead and say system out print line. And I'm freezing right now. Sorry. Print line, and we'll say hello world in quotation marks. And then at the very end of it, we'll put a semicolon. Capital S is important. Parentheses are important. Quotation marks are important. All these things. If you don't put it exactly like that, you're going to get an error message. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and run it. And I see hello world down there. So we got our output. And again, we can do hello world. You can write anything you want in here. Go ahead and write my name. Rerun it. You see new output. Okay, so that's print line. Now, if I want to print another line, I'm going to go ahead and say system out print line. Today is Friday. Again, I want to make sure I put a semicolon at the end of that statement, and there it says Mr. Shaver, today is Friday. If I hadn't had that semicolon and made a mistake, what you'll see is you'll get an error message. It'll say errors exist. You can either click proceed or cancel. I'll click proceed, nothing outputs, and you see you get an error message on that line, and it tells you essentially exactly what you're looking for right here, which is there's a syntax error. And so I'm going to go ahead and add that in. There we go. One of the first things we'll talk about is the difference between print and print line. And so if I change both of these to print statements, what you'll see is essentially they put those statements right next to each other. Print line, at the end of that statement, it drops the carriage or the typing down to the next line. Print essentially just goes one after the other. And so if I do another print statement, and go ahead and run that, you'll see it just drops it right at the end. But if I do a print line, let's say on this statement, you see that after Friday, it drops me down to the next line. There's also another way around it. If I just use the print statements, let's go back up. I'm going to get rid of these two lines. If I put a /n, that's the escape character for new line. So anything I write here goes on the next line. And I can do that multiple times. So I put a space in there. You see, why is there a space? Well, there's a space right after the end. I can do it again. And again, you can kind of see that /n drops it down to the next line. So you can do it kind of on the fly, or you can do the print line statement. One thing you'll see me do oftentimes is this is a comment. It has no effect on the program. If I put a comment in here, as so, it will not print that line because it's essentially been grayed out. This is basically a message to the user. So I might write, this is a print statement. I'm having trouble typing it. After a line. And so what that does is as we get more complicated with our programs, you'll see that we'll add more and more comments. Next thing we're going to talk about is variables. So I'm going to go ahead and take those statements out. Variables we'll cover a lot in class. Essentially, there's 4 main types we'll hit early on, and really 3 that we'll emphasize right away: string, boolean, or excuse me, string, double, and integer. Strings are essentially everything with quotation marks around them. And in Java, you have to declare all of your variables. So I might say string name equals Mr. Shaver. Okay. Sometimes you declare it and then define it later on. So I might say int age. And then later on I might say age equals 31. Okay. And the other one we'll do is a double. So I might say double GPA. Let's say Mr. Shaver is very smart, and so Mr. Shaver got a 3.95. And as we talk about in class, doubles have decimal points, integers do not. So sometimes that's important that we clarify those 2 things. Now what I can do is I can print those variables similar to what we were doing before, but instead of quotation marks in some places, I'll go ahead and use just the name of the variable. So system out print, I'll do a print line, and let's say name. So if I run that, you'll see it prints Mr. Shaver. Let's say I want to print my name and my age. Let's say I want to do it right next to each other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to concatenate these statements, and I'm going to write print name plus age. Now if I run that, what you see is it just puts them right next to each other. It just kind of shoves them. So if I want a space between those, and then maybe I want to say is 31 years old. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do plus is plus, or quotation mark, plus age plus years old. And what you see happens here, I need one more space right here. As you can see, you just kind of go and kind of fix on the fly. Mr. Shaver is 31 years old. And so you can use those concatenate statements with the plus. Now keep in mind, show you something here, it will add numbers. So for example, if I put age plus GPA, since those are both numbers, even though they're different formats, it adds those together. But if I do that after a string, so for example, like this, if I do plus age plus GPA like this, what you're going to see is that it doesn't print 34.95 on both sides, even though we have age plus GPA and age plus GPA. On the left-hand side, it's working left to right, so it adds 31 plus 3.95, we get 34.95. Then we add in my name. Then we add in after the string, so all that's doing is it's shoving them together. It's not adding them up, just dropping them on the end, so it puts 31 and then 3.95 right at the end of it. So just be on the lookout for that. Those are little things that are important. We'll do a lot more work on this. In the next video, we'll do some input and output.